Hello guys, it's David. For context, I will go back to my home country for 1 month and I didn't want it to bring my desktop PC, so I was wondering if I can get a cheap laptop for mostly gaming and use that for my trip. Right now I know the best value for a laptop is probably a MacBook Neo. It's also usable for gaming, but the macOS doesn't support all the games I play, so I needed a Windows laptop. These days a brand new gaming laptop, which is to my mind usable, is around €1,000 or more with a dedicated GPU which can actually handle games quite well. But yeah, in the second-hand market, I think older gaming laptops around 5 to 10 years old can also be used, and back then they were quite a good gaming houses. So I bought this Alienware 15R4 from 2018. I bought it second-hand for €400, which I think was quite a bargain because it has a terabyte NVMe storage and 32 gigs of RAM. It also has an i7-8750H and the GTX 1080 Max-Q video card with 8 gigs of VRAM. The battery has been replaced by the previous owner for an original one, so the battery life is around 4 hours with light use, which actually I don't really care because most of the times I will use it plugged in for gaming. Also, the body of the laptop is in quite good shape. I can tell there's not a lot of damages on it or any scratches. I actually owned this laptop a few years ago and I always loved how it looks and the performance of it, and I think it had kind of a soul other than the newer models. So I'm very curious how does it stand up in 2026. I also bought this model because I wanted an older high-end experience, but to be honest, you can buy maybe a few years newer laptop with medium range graphics card, for example 3060 or 3070, around 400 to 600 euros as well, and get pretty similar experience in performance, maybe even a better screen because this one only has a TN panel, but also your laptop will be probably lighter and smaller, maybe even making less noise, and it will be easier to cool it because of the newer architectures. It's probably gonna use less wattage for similar performance. This laptop is actually quite heavy. It's 3.5 kilograms with charger, but for me it doesn't really matter. I'm probably gonna move it with my car most of the times, and in LAN parties I'm just gonna plug it in and leave it on its place, and that's why also the battery wasn't really a huge thing for me. The build quality is quite good. There's not a lot of keyboard flex, actually anywhere, and it's a big solid machine. First thing I did, I opened up the laptop so I can clean it and repaste it. I use Noctua NT-H2 paste. I would recommend something like that, or for a budget option, at least an Arctic MX4, MX7 or something from Thermal Grizzly. I wouldn't recommend cheaping out on the paste because it can make a few degrees change, and that can help in your GPU and CPU boost bin, so you get higher clock speeds because of the lower temperatures. Also, with higher quality pastes, they tend to dry out later, so it can keep the temps lower for a longer period. For thermal pads, I use Gallit GP Ultimate pads with the correct thicknesses. For this one, if your laptop is around 3 to 5 years old, maybe you don't even need to change them if you're not comfortable with it, but you can check if they are really dirty or also if they are dried out. You can try to lift one of them up, one of the thermal pads, and if it's crushing to pieces really easily, then I would recommend to change it. I would recommend checking online what size of thermal pads you need if you do that step, and get the right millimeter pads before opening your laptop, maybe some thicker and also thinner ones, so you definitely have all the right sizes. You can choose them by 0.5 millimeters, so be careful if you get the right size, because maybe if you get something thicker for some places, some other components will not gonna touch the surface of the cooler, and then it can make CPU or GPU clocks way under its spec. I could see this laptop has been repasted before, but it lived in a dusty environment, so I changed everything, even the cooling pads, to help it cool better. As you can see, the pads were quite dirty as well. Also, if you're not confident even changing the thermal paste and opening up the laptop, and your laptop is still around 95 degrees for CPU and 85 degrees for GPU, under load for average temperatures, I think that's still usable. And then you can just use compressed air to clean the laptop's insides, which can also help a lot. For that, I recommend to use a toothpick and put that in each fan, so during the air blast the fans are not acting as generators, potentially damaging electronics. After putting everything back together, connecting all the cables and checking if the lights are on and everything is working, I installed Windows 11 Home. Luckily, Windows license was already on the machine, so after I started up the new Windows, it was automatically activated itself. Most of the laptops have Windows pre-installed, so you get an activation key, so even if you reinstall it, it should be automatically active. I also noticed that luckily I had an older BIOS, which was actually perfect for me because I was planning to undervolt it, but with newer BIOSes, Intel does not let you undervolt their CPUs anymore. Undervolting helps a lot with temperatures, especially for laptops. Actually, with Intel XTU, I still can't undervolt the CPU because the microcode in the CPU was already updated in the Windows update, but luckily ThrottleStop can still be used. Usually you can do -50 and -150 millivolts for undervolting. Actually, I was managed to do a stable -155 millivolts undervolt. That helped me keep the CPU cooler and even have the performance a little bit. Because on the laptop, CPUs usually get way hotter than the GPUs because of the smaller die size, and that's why you have higher wattages on the average per millimeters. I put the fans to run at 100%, which made the laptop quite noisy, but because it's a bigger laptop with huge fans, the noise was not a typical high-pitched laptop noise, but a deeper humbling noise, which I think really helped with how I felt the sound was. After replacing and undervolting, the CPU stayed under 90 degrees during gaming. Before that it could hit 99 degrees easily and then throttle right after. Even night, first of the times it hit 99 degrees and started throttling, but then the fans kicked on and then it stayed the mentioned 90 degree and lower. The GPU was even better, which is usually the case with laptops. It was under 70 degrees all the time, which is a really solid temperature for a machine like this. Also, the GPU was running at 110 watts, which I think is quite good for a Max-Q graphics card. And what I've seen online, actually the performance of this 1080 Max-Q laptop was more in line with a regular 1080 laptop. I also lifted the laptop around 2 centimeters from the table. That's around the width of a cat leg for the American viewers. Actually, I'm probably gonna use this riser when I'm on LAN parties, and I also use this for the benchmarks and the gaming. First game I was trying was Battlefield 6. I had to put all the settings to low, so it's gonna be playable, but I put the resolution to 1080p, and I actually didn't use FSR or frame generation, and of course DLSS is not really available for a 1080 card. I got between 60 to 80 FPS in multiplayer. Apex Legends was a way easier title to run. I put all the settings to high, and in 1080p I got between 100 and 144 FPS all the time. One other title I tried was an older game, Mount Blade Bannerlord. I think this game is also like 5 to 6 years old. When I had all the 1000 troops at the same time running or fighting, I got dropped around 40 FPS, but this is still a really big game to run if you use a lot of troops at the same time. At the end, I'm probably gonna play with some more games when I'm gonna be home, but for now these were the 3 games I tried. And definitely with your friends, if you have some indie games and older games, they're probably gonna run fine with a laptop like this. I ran Heavenbench and Cinebench, so you can see some numbers to relate, but to be honest, they are not as impressive as I was hoping for. But I don't think it really matters, because when I was using the laptop for gaming and everyday use, it was quite snappy. The 120Hz screen helped a lot with that. So honestly, was it worth it? I think yes. To be honest, for €400 I think it was a pretty good deal. I think for general use it's gonna be perfect for me when I'm home. If you want to get something more normal and not as heavy, you can choose something between 3 to 5 years old, like a basic gaming laptop with a 3060, 3070, even a 4060 if you find one. They can be sometimes even faster and easier to carry. For me, I was really wanting to go with the nostalgia for these laptops and the look. And yeah, the thing is, when I'm going to go somewhere, I think I'm gonna turn some heads in the LAN parties. And thank you for the watching.